Sitting right off of the historic Route 66 is one of the most stunning beauties in America, as the crystal clear water invites many travelers to lounge in her blue, encompassing lagoon. The Blue Hole of New Mexico hides a harrowing history below. Underneath the sounds of swimmers having fun sits one of the country's most complex and unexplored cave systems. Originally used for training scuba students, one fateful day in 1976 led to the tragedy that gave the unassuming Blue Hole its nickname of the most dangerous cave in the world. Perhaps it is how the clear water glistens off the sunlight, or its mysterious aurora that drove 8 men from Oklahoma to use the Blue Hole as their training ground. The unassuming pond had served many generations, dating back to the time of Native Americans. However, details are scarce as there aren't many written records surrounding its origin. What we do know is that the Blue Hole pumps about 3,000 gallons of water per minute from a gap approximately 80 feet deep. For those adventurous to see the hole in action, one would be disappointed, as a metal grate has prevented explorers from seeing more for almost 50 years. Before the grate, an opening leading to a series of underwater passageways. The issue is that there aren't any maps or written records of prior explorations. So when the 8 men from Oklahoma began to explore, no one could have anticipated what happened next. One of the gifts and cruxes of the human condition is our need to push the boundaries of danger, even to the point of self-harm. That is exactly what happened on March 10th, 1976. When 2 divers from the Oklahoma squad decided to wander away from their group without warning and enter the, as we know, previously unexplored cave. Shimming their bodies into small creases and caverns, the 2 divers would embark on an exploration that would cost them their lives. What those 2 divers saw was untouched nature, a place very few, if any, have ever pondered before. And like our condition dictates, they pushed further into the cave. What they would have witnessed is rooms as tall as 17 feet, passageways that lead to dead ends, and a cave system that reaches about 190 feet in depth. Their names were Mike and David. They were students at Oklahoma State University. Already warned not to deviate from their group, Mike and David let their curiosity get the best of them, upon noticing that their fellow divers had gone missing. The group from Oklahoma quickly informed the New Mexico authorities, and a dive team went in after them. Having little to no information about the caves, their efforts on that day have helped bridge the gap between the known and unknown surrounding the Blue Hole. Tom Hawkins, a longtime diver and retired judge, was a member of the rescue team. His account has provided the public with clarity of the dangers that lay below such a calm surface. Hawkins noted that the entryway into the cave was so narrow that several divers had to remove their equipment just to enter. Once inside, armed with a flashlight, Hawkins and the team made their way through the various chambers of the cave. Making note of some of the dangers, Hawkins recalls the harrowing realization of what those 2 divers endured in their final moments. Hawkins said, "Just imagine yourself in Carlsbad Caverns, but filled with water and without light." For those of you wondering, Carlsbad Caverns has a famous chamber titled The Big Room, with dimensions of 4,000 feet long, 625 feet wide, and 255 feet high. The students had no chance. In a chamber of that size, with no light or air, the 2 divers from Oklahoma were victims to a watery grave. Mike's body was discovered on the first day, near the entrance of the cave. It seemed that before he passed, either he didn't venture into the cave as far as David, or was somehow able to make out the dark passageways as he attempted to return to the surface. For David, it would take another 6 weeks to find his body. Many factors contributed to the delay, including poor visibility, the unknown chambers of the cave, and the sheer fact that not many divers wanted to participate in something that had already claimed multiple lives. Eventually, David's body was found in an offshoot and returned to the surface, where he and Mike were properly buried. Makeshift sketches of the cave were made, and it detailed how extensive of a network the passageways were and why it took so long to find which one David entered. In response to this tragedy, the city of Santa Rosa, New Mexico, sealed the opening with a grate that allowed water to refill the blue hole but prevented explorers from entering. This should have served as a reminder of the dangers of underwater exploration and the tragedy that occurred in 1976. But despite what happened, a new breed of adventurers tried their luck 40 years later to their untimely demise. From 1976 to 2016, the tragedy that occurred remained largely unknown by the general public. Multiple steps beyond the metal grate were added to prevent adventurers from exploring the caves, including the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers dumping rocks and debris into and around the grate to further block passageways into the cave. And their efforts worked. No one entered the cave again, at least for the time being. The unassuming pond had reverted back to its original use of being enjoyed by the public, while serving as an open water training center for divers. That was until a daring expedition was hatched to reopen the grate and allow 2 experienced divers to further map the cave and its passageways. The ADM Exploration Foundation decided to hatch a daring plan to finish what Tom Hawkins and his dive team started. Enlisting the help of 2 veteran divers, Shane Thompson and Mike Young, ADM put forth a proposal that would send the 2 deep into the blue hole. Starting in 2013, ADM, with the help of city officials, began prepping for the expedition. They started by removing and clearing the debris left by the US Army, giving the divers enough room to enter. By this time, the danger level to the cave was considered to be average, giving everyone involved the security that the most dangerous cave in the world was a moniker only associated with the past. Once the debris was clear, the idea was that both men would enter together, connected by a dive line that would ensure both Thompson's and Young's safety. Following a series of mini expeditions to map out the opening of the cave, on March 26, 2016, Thompson and Young would venture out and attempt to conduct the most in-depth analysis of the cave up to that point. Mike Young grew up in Colorado, often spending his youth working on his family's farm and participating in outside activities. Eventually, he fell in love with diving, something he would dedicate himself to in the 90s. With a background in automated machinery, Young is at the forefront of diving innovation, helping design new equipment such as a rebreather, a tool that will be mentioned later. Young would participate in many explorations before the Blue Hole. He explored caves in Mexico, a river system in Puerto Rico, and was a member of the J2 expedition that mapped the Sistema Huartla, the 10th deepest cave on Earth. Thompson, an accomplished diver, was chosen to partner with Young due to his experience with the wreckage of the B-36 bomber titled the Peacemaker, which crashed off of Mission Beach in 1952. Thompson, a former member of the Navy, was a part of multiple expeditions before taking on the Blue Hole. Having decades of dive time, Thompson was a reliable partner for Young, as Young would be tasked with exploring the unknown passageways of the cave. What makes the cave system so dangerous is the sheer amount of passageways and offshoots that end up as dead ends. To combat this, Thompson was tasked with keeping Young safe, a task Thompson failed to do. In previous explorations, divers found it difficult to navigate the extensive cave due to various passageways and narrow openings. Those openings would not allow divers with traditional oxygen tanks to enter. Since 1976, boulders had broken off in the cave, making what was already a difficult situation even harder, with narrower entryways and limited visibility. To combat this, Young was equipped with a new version of breathing equipment titled the Sidewinder, which put the oxygen tank on his side instead of on his back, allowing Young to enter passageways once deemed inaccessible. Thompson, equipped with a standard oxygen tank, had his sitting on his back. This was no issue, as the plan was for Young to enter each passageway while Thompson remained outside, attached with a dive line. Should Young have gotten lost or discovered a passageway was a dead end, the line would lead him back to Thompson and safety on the outside. After realizing that the passageway was a dead end, Young decided to turn around. Unable to see over 2 feet in front of him because of the debris kicked up during his search, it shocked Young when he bumped into a scared Thompson. Thompson, for some unknown reason, went into the passageway after Young, despite having equipment that made that task nearly impossible. Disoriented and confused, Young relied on his training and dive line to find the way out. Upon finding the opening, Young sent Thompson through first. After Thompson exited, Young began to do the same before the dive line was unexpectedly ripped from his hands, leaving him trapped with no sense of direction. Young began to panic as more debris kicked up during the exit. So not only did Young not know which gap led to an exit, he couldn't even see where the gaps were. Panic had begun to set in, but his equipment kept him calm. Both Thompson and Young had something called a rebreather on them. One of the many advancements in diving, a rebreather takes advantage of the oxygen not absorbed into the body through the breathing process. When humans breathe, they take in air. Air is made up of 21% oxygen and 79% nitrogen. The nitrogen is just part of air. Oxygen is what gives humans life. Humans inhale 21% oxygen and release between 16 or 17% as they breathe out. A rebreather takes advantage of the unabsorbed oxygen to provide divers more air while underwater. A rebreather is a closed loop that is connected to an oxygen tank. As a diver breathes into their apparatus, the oxygen and carbon dioxide emitted from breath goes into a tube one way. The carbon dioxide gets scrubbed out, and the remaining oxygen gets sent back into the diver, taking advantage of the clean oxygen that humans do not absorb with their first breath. The oxygen tank then supplements the rebreather to give divers as much air as possible. However, the rebreather requires the diver to remain calm, exercising normal breathing practices. Breathing hard, as in the case of panic, will cause a diver's oxygen level to deplete at a faster rate. Young knew that time was on his side with his rebreather. He stayed calm, found an opening, and found the dive line again. After doing this, he found Thompson. Thompson was in a tunnel, acting sporadic, and despite Young's attempts to calm Thompson down, Thompson sprang for the first opening he saw, accidentally colliding with Young and breaking his dry suit valve, filling his bodysuit with 52-degree Fahrenheit water. Then, once again, Thompson was gone. Young would follow the dive line, which was tight as he began to search for Thompson. As Young made progress, a tragic realization struck him. The dive line that was once tight went limp. Only 2 possibilities presented themselves. Either Thompson let go of the line, or he was unconscious. Upon finding Thompson, Young realized it was the latter. Thompson had passed. Young tried to pull Thompson's body to the surface, but the task under those circumstances was too difficult, so Young resurfaced. He and the ADM crew would go back and recover Thompson's body the following day. Thompson ran out of oxygen and showed massive signs of panic. It was a culmination of many things that led to his demise. We will never know what Thompson's thought process was or what different decision he could have made to save his life. But with the cave claiming another victim, the grate was put back and has remained a permanent feature since. Thompson was 43 years old. Due to its history, it is doubtful that the caves will ever be explored again, and Santa Rosa officials have made no plans for further exploration. The Blue Hole remains a popular attraction to many, serving the community for its intended purpose. Despite its high usage and stunning beauty, its harrowing past remains a mystery to many. Thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed it, please like and subscribe so we can continue to bring these stories to you each and every week. If you have any video suggestions, leave a comment down below. Until next time.